Human being is a cognitive miser. What do you mean by cognitive miser? It means that a human being naturally, we do not like to think. We do not like to put any pressure on our brain. We don't like to give any pain to our brain. We want everything very simple to be simplified, so everything very easy. So that is the reason when we don't put much effort in our thinking, because we don't want any pressure, and since we want everything to be very easy going, that is when cognitive bias comes in. That means there is a systematic error in our thinking, because when we are thinking, we want shortcuts, mental shortcuts. We don't want to pressurize our brain in thinking too much. We do filtering. In this way, what happens, that brain is able to filter and process large amounts of information in a very quick manner and in a very, very easy manner. So this is what cognitive bias is. That means we make a systematic error in filtering, in processing this huge amount of data. And we are cognitive misers. We do not like to think too much every time that whenever we sense the world around us. So that is the reason that when cognitive biases occur. So when we have these cognitive biases, what happens? It affects our thinking and decision making. In last chapter, we did what is thinking and what is decision making. But we always don't think in a rational manner. We have a lot of cognitive biases. These cognitive biases, these errors that are there, they are always affecting our rational thinking and our decision making. So we are not probably taking always the best decision, or always not the rational decision. So what are these cognitive biases? We'll be discussing it now. There is one very common and very important terminology called as heuristics. What are heuristics? It means these are the mental shortcuts. So like I already told you, that people do not like to put pressure on their brain and do not want the pain of thinking too much, ponder over something for too long, and we want quick solutions, something that can be done very easily and very quickly. So we like to think that way. We do not want to give pain to our brain. So what happens in that case, to make everything simple and everything very effective, we use heuristics. Heuristics are the mental shortcuts that we use to come to a conclusion. It can be because of your prior experiences, by generalizing, and so on. For example, let's say that we say that all teachers are strict. Okay, so we assume that the teachers are strict, and the moment any new teacher comes in, we do not open ourselves very frankly. We don't become very frank and open with the teacher, and we are very disciplined. We don't talk to them like as we are talking to some uncle, auntie, friends, or parents, or anybody. So we think that okay, she's a teacher, she'll be strict, so we try to discipline ourselves. So what is this? This is a heuristic. This is a mental shortcut. Just because we have schema of a teacher, and somehow in our schema, teacher is a strict teacher, so that is the reason that we assume that this teacher might also be strict. Now this can lead to a lot of cognitive biases and a lot of cognitive errors in our judgment, because maybe we haven't given it a much thought, and maybe that teacher is actually not very strict. Another example of heuristic is like comparing relative to something. For example, I run 10,000 steps, and my age, other people or other girls of my age, they're able to run 8,000 steps only in a given time period. So I think that I am a very good runner, because as compared to other girls who are of my age, they are running lesser than me. I have, I ran more than them. So I think that I am a good runner, because this is in comparison. So because of that, again, I am creating a generalization. I am giving a mental shortcut. So that is what heuristic is. Just one more example of heuristics so that you understand better. Let's say at night you're walking all alone on the street, and all of a sudden there is a guy who is coming, right in front of you. He's wearing a dark black jacket, and there is a hoodie on his head. So you assume that he's going to either attack you, or you are in danger, or he's going to rob you or something like that. So you perceive this person with a hoodie walking on the street, coming towards you on this lonely night, as a danger. Maybe that person is just minding their own business, and maybe he's just walking by, that's it, he's just some other pedestrian, but you assume him as a danger. The only reason is that you used heuristics. Your brain told you, according to your prior experiences, according to your news, whenever you have heard and other things, it made you feel that this could be a danger. So you find this person as a danger, and this is again a heuristic, without even thinking or without giving more of a thought that there could be other things as well. Now, are heuristics good or bad? Heuristics are bad in a way that maybe you're just passing on the judgment without even knowing, the real thing. You don't know this person, the hoodie person who is coming along, or you don't know the teacher that you have just met, but you're just passing the judgment very quickly. Just because she's a teacher, she's going to be strict. Just because a person at lonely night with a hoodie is coming, he might be a danger. So you have assumed something. So it is bad because we are not actually maybe not making a right decision, and we are thinking which is not true at all. But heuristics can also be good. Why? Because we don't drain our energy every time. Most of the times we try to generalize things. It makes our life very simple. It's based on our schemas, our prior experiences, our past experiences, and we're able to, come to a conclusion very easily and very quickly. So heuristics also make our life very easy, which makes it a good thing. Well, these are some of the signs of cognitive biases. For example, only tuning into news and stories that confirm your opinions. Sometimes we think that maybe you want COVID to happen so that you can just stay at home and you don't want to go out. So you just turn on the news that says that yes, COVID is on rise, and you feel internally happy that now nobody will come to my house, will be quarantined, I'll be, all by myself in the house. This is not what I think. This is just an example that I'm giving it to you. So sometimes we tend to put on some news that is confirming or, affirming whatever we are thinking, that is kind of taking our side. So we'll feel happy about it. So we try to read only those kind of news. Then second is assuming you are always correct. So you try to think that, every time that something comes up, you give excuses just because you think that you are the one who is always right. Then third point is attributing other people's success to luck. So you don't want to agree to that other people have actually worked hard more than you. That is why they are more successful. And you say maybe, he's a big film star or he became a big businessman. It's just luck. Maybe, I work equally hard. Theirs is just luck. So this is again one of the cognitive biases. Then fourth is assuming that everyone else share the same opinions or beliefs. So you tend to think that everybody think the same way like I am thinking. For example, we say, why she just ran off leaving her children and husband? This is so bad. And you think that the whole society thinks the same way. It is a positive thinking that, I am thinking about the society. So everybody is also thinking about the same thing. So this is an assumption that we make which may not be true. And last is constantly blaming others if things don't go your way. So since you think that you are the person who is always right, and hence whenever something goes wrong, you start blaming the other person for the thing that has gone wrong. This is again a cognitive bias. Now let's understand very important terminology, system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. So how do we think? When we are thinking, in what mode are we thinking? How the information in our brain actually gets processed? We think in two modes, either system 1 thinking or system 2 thinking. So what are these systems? System 1 thinking is fast, it is automatic and unconscious reaction to something. So it is used most of the time, almost every day, in almost all kinds of tasks during our daily lives. So whenever we are moving around, there is a fast thinking going on. Like I said, human being is a cognitive miser. We do not like to put pressure on our brains. We do not like to give pain to our brain and think too much because it consumes our energy. So usually what happens in day-to-day lives, in day-to-day decisions, we use system one thinking. Our friend called up, we have to go or we don't have to, or what do I wear in the morning, or what do I cook, or how do I have to do my work, or what is the homework, or what I'm going to do with my job, or whatever it is. So in most of the cases, small decisions that are happening, that is all system one thinking. It is happening fast, it is happening automatic, and it is very reactive. It is happening unconsciously. We just compare the things, we just work on our intuitions, we work on our schemas, existing schemas, on our prior, on our past experiences. So on the basis of all these things, we take a decision that is called a system one thinking. Then comes in your system two thinking. System two thinking is more slow, logical, and takes a lot of effort. System two thinking is when you actually use your brain, you think or ponder over something, and you take out the pros and the cons of something, then you decide whether to go for it or to not to go for it. Maybe some big business decisions, big decisions in your relationships, at your work, or when guests are coming, what you should do. These are some important guests who are coming, so what you should make and what you should not cook and all that. So system two thinking happens once in a while. It happens sometimes. We cannot live on system two thinking on our daily lives because we cannot keep on consuming an energy so much, fuel of our brain so much, that we keep on, thinking everything in detail while we are working, because it is going to make us get very, very tired. So we can't do that. So usually in most of our time, we use system one thinking, that is very fast and automatic. And system two thinking, we use it sometimes when we have to take some very rational decision, and it is a so slow process, like choosing your career path, choosing your college, or which subjects you want to go for. So these are the things when system two thinking, mode of thinking, strikes in. In this class, we'll cover two important biases: anchoring bias and confirmation bias. So I'm going to cover these two topics with you under cognitive biases, and we'll be doing the supporting studies for the same. So first, let's do what is anchoring bias. Anchoring bias. Anchoring bias means when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information, and which is called as anchor, and later on whatever decisions we are making, whatever we come across, we always tend to compare it with the first piece of information that we had come across. I'll give you a very interesting example of the same. You'll understand it better. Now let's say you go to this market, and it's an open market in the ground, number of stalls, small shops are there, and you are a tourist, you are new to this place and you haven't been here before. So you just enter the market, and in the very first shop, you just stand and see there is a lamp here. Okay. Now you ask the salesperson, how much is this lamp for? I really liked it. And he says it is for $20. And you say, okay, fine. Now dollars, maybe it's not your currency, or you have never come to this place before. You're not very sure how much a lamp cost, or in dollars, is it expensive, is it cheap, or what is it, because you're a tourist. So you think, okay, let me just explore the market a little more and I'll get back to you. So you go further, and after a few shops, you come again, a similar kind of lamp is there. Then you again ask the salesperson, wow, how much is this lamp for? And the person says, salesperson, that it is for $40. And you think, oh my God, the first one was cheap. This is so expensive. Now, why are you saying that the first one was cheap? The first one was cheap as compared to the second, and not because it is actually cheap. Maybe that actual cost of that lamp is actually worth only $10. Just because he said 20, you think it is cheap because now the second one is saying it is for $40. Then you go a little ahead, a little ahead, and then you again stop by and say, how much is this lamp for? And the third salesperson says it is for $30. So they all are giving their own prices, and then you think, oh, the first one was actually cheap, I'll go back and get the first one. So like I said, maybe in actual market price is only $10 for that lamp. But just because you are relying only on the first piece of information, second and third time they said it is more, you thought that it is cheaper, so you go back and you get the lamp. So this is what anchoring bias, anything that you come across in the very first place, that becomes your anchor, the first piece of information, and thereafter whenever you compare, you tend to compare the other information that you have come across with the first piece of information. Same goes for sometimes. Second example is like with colleges, you come across the very first college that you have gone to see, that how the colleges that you want to take admission in, and you come across many things about the facilities and the amenities and the course and the modules and everything. Then as you go ahead, you start comparing those colleges with the first one and see that in comparison, are these bad or are these better ones. So this worse and better that we think, it is on the basis of the anchor, that the first piece of information we had just come across. So this is called anchoring bias. Now here what has happened, maybe we are not thinking rationally, we are not thinking that okay, this he's giving the lamp too cheap, maybe the quality is also very bad, maybe the $40 lamp is a better one. Or it could be the other way around, that maybe the lamp is actually very cheap, it is just for $10, I'm unnecessarily buying for a double price, it is for $20. So we are not using a system 2 thinking. Here we are using a system 1 thinking. We are having an anchoring bias. We are being influenced by this anchor, by this first piece of information, and all our decision making and thinking is relied on this first piece of information. So this is what is called an anchoring bias. Another very, very interesting example, a real life example of anchoring bias, I'm going to give it to you. You would have gone to the mall or maybe online shopping when you're doing. Many a times there are products that it's written, like for example, there is a jacket and under the jacket it's written rupees 10,000 or maybe, $1,000, something like that. Okay. And then it is striked off. Then it is written 75% off. And after 75% off, like whatever it is, maybe let's say 2,500. So it has fallen from 10,000 to, 2,500. I'm not calculating actually the percentage. So it is striked off and the percentage is written and then the, amount is written. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, wow, this is so cheap. I'm going to buy this jacket. Now imagine there are 2 jackets here on different websites. They are very similar. The first one you see, the only price that is written here on this jacket is rupees 1,000. And you think, oh my god, this is so expensive, 1,000 rupees jacket. I'm not going to buy it. I want something cheaper. Now you go to this other website where it is written 10,000 rupees jacket, it is striked off, written 90% off, and then it is written rupees 1,000. Now the first piece of information what you read was 10,000 rupees, and then you read rupees 1,000. So when you read the second information rupees 1,000, you are comparing it with the original price rupees 10,000, and what comes to your mind? Oh my god, 90% off, it is so damn cheap, I must buy this jacket, I can't miss this jacket, I'm getting 90% off on this. So this is a trick here. Because of our anchoring bias, we always have this cognitive bias in ourselves while we are thinking and doing any decision making. And advertising companies and other consumer product companies, they take advantage of this. They know the psychology of a person, how a person thinks, and that is how they play with your mind. So instead of writing just that these shoes are for 2,500 or this cap is for 100. They don't write that. They always write a bigger number, strike it off, and below they write after discount, this is the price. So that it comes to your mind that, wow, I'm getting a huge discount on this, so let's buy it. So this is a very, very common error, that is anchoring bias, that we come across in our daily lives, and we do act very quickly on this, getting fooled by it. So yes, this definitely works. I'm going to share one supporting study with you, Gandhi and the Anchoring Effect, by Strack and Musweiler, 1997. So the IB psychology students can write this study by Gandhi and the Anchoring Effect for the anchoring bias as a supporting study. Now, their aim was to see how the anchoring effect could influence guesses of Mahatma Gandhi's age when he died. So method was, participants were 60 male and female German university students. They were asked two questions. Half of the participants were asked if Gandhi was older or younger than 9 years old when he died. The other half were asked if he was older or younger than 140 years old. They were then asked how old they think he was when he died. Results. Participants in the high anchor condition. What is high anchor condition? That is 140-year-old. In high anchor condition, guessed on average he was 67 years old. Whereas those in the low anchor condition, here the low anchor was 9-year-old. The low anchor condition guessed he was 50-year-old when he died. So what does it actually mean? What the result means? The conclusion is that this study demonstrates the anchoring effect. Numerical information given to participants before making a judgment can influence their later judgments. It also shows it can have an effect even if the numbers are implausible. So here is the explanation for the same, that anchoring and availability heuristics. The anchor is the information that is easily accessible, available, and this is used in the judgment. A heuristic is a cognitive shortcut. So here the anchor is used as a shortcut to making a guess. Now this is a dual processing model. A second explanation is that system 1 and system 2 thinking can explain anchoring. In terms of system 1, which is very fast, intuitive, automatic, participants' anchor consistent knowledge is activated by this anchor. So this influences their guess. For example, people in the 140 condition might link this number to the fact that Gandhi was old when he died. So 67 sounds right. On the other hand, those in the 9 condition might have some other knowledge activated, like he died too young, he was assassinated, resulting in a lower guess. Alternatively, they might use system 2 processing if they start their guess with the anchor and then readjust from there. Example, they know 140 is too high, so they can do the readjustments. This requires more cognitive effort than the first approach. Let's do another study for anchoring bias, that is by Tversky and Kahneman, 1974. In the study, high school students were used as participants. Participants in the ascending condition were asked to quickly estimate the value of 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 into 6 into 7 into 8 in 5 seconds. Those in the descending condition were asked to quickly estimate the value of 8 into 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Now, since we read from left to right, the researchers assumed that the group 1 would use 1 as an anchor and predict a lower value than the group that had started with 8 as the anchor. The expectation was that the first number seen would bias the estimate of the value by the participant. The researchers found that the median for the ascending group was just 512. And the median for the descending group was 2250. The actual value is 40320. So what is the evaluation of the study? The study is a very simple experiment, that is, it can be easily replicated. So that means it is highly reliable. It's a lab experiment allowing us to establish the reliability of the results. The study is highly controlled and has high internal validity. It can be inferred that the anchor was the cause of the higher or lower estimates by the students. The experiment has low ecological validity. because it was a lab experiment and not a natural or field experiment. The situation is very artificial. It is not too often in life that we have only 5 seconds to estimate the value of something. It is questionable to what extent the findings can be applied. However, as shown in the studies above, there is evidence that anchoring is shown in other situations. The study was an independent sample design. This means that participant variability may have played a role in the results. It would be better to have a matched pair design to attempt to have two groups with an equivalent level of maths competency. Now we are done with anchoring bias. Now we did the concept and we also did two supporting studies for the same. Now let's understand what is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is that we tend to absorb that information which confirms our beliefs. For example, many people, they like to read horoscope or they like to read, their predicted forecast. The reason is that when they are reading and they already know about themselves, like, what kind of personality they are or what kind of a person they are. But why they still read the horoscope and want to know about how are Pisces like, or how is Libra, or how is Cancer, or how is Scorpio? Why do they do that? The reason is that when they are reading, they are confirming, they're getting an affirmation that yes, look, this is the kind of information, this is the right information, this is how I am. So if I believe that, I'm a Piscean, I am a very kind person, or I'm a very introvert, or I like to read books, or I'm very artistic, and so on. So the same thing probably or similar kind of thing is written in my horoscope in Pisces. And when I read it, it gives me an affirmation to my beliefs, existing beliefs, that yes, this is what I really am. So people like to, absorb or take in that information that gives an affirmation to your existing beliefs. And we tend to ignore that kind of news or information that do not sink in well or do not support our existing beliefs. That is what confirmation bias is. These are some of the examples of confirmation bias, like not seeking out objective facts, interpreting information to support your existing belief, only remembering details that uphold your belief, ignoring information that challenges your belief. So basically, it supports your existing beliefs and attitudes, and it avoids the information that contradicts the existing beliefs and attitudes. A very famous and a very common example is of those, let's say, when there is a police investigation going on, and police somehow, for some reason, maybe intuition or their instinct or their past experiences or whatever, think that this person is the criminal or he is the suspect, he has done a crime. So what the police here is doing, they start searching for all the evidences. They start collecting all the evidences that support their belief, rather than maybe even if they get some evidence that is against it, maybe they might ignore that evidence, or they might, try to look an evidence with an eye that is supporting the fact that this person is the suspect whom they had suspected the very first time. So they want to, affirm their existing belief that this person was the suspect. They start looking everything in that very perspective. So that is what is confirmation biasness. Let's do some supporting studies here for confirmation bias. The first is by Carol Hill et al. 2008. Sample was 61 Scottish students. There is a paragraph to read. 2 participants were completing an intelligence test in the same room. The research assistant left the room for 5 minutes, leaving the answer sheet for the task on the desk. Thus, both participants had the opportunity to cheat by looking at the answer sheet. When the research assistants returned to the room, the answer sheet had been moved from its original position on the desk. Participants in a guilty expectation condition were informed that approximately 4 out of 5 participants in the study, that is 80%, look in the answer sheet, while those in the innocent expectation condition were informed that approximately 4 out of 5 participants in the study, that is 80%, do not look at the answer sheet. All the participants were told that they should prepare an interview with one of the participants to find out what had happened. They should therefore write down questions for the interview. Raters who were blind to the conditions then coded questions as presumptive of guilt or presumptive of innocence. The questions were also rated on a scale from 0 to 6, where 0 meant extremely presumptive of innocence and 6 meant extremely presumptive of guilt. In accordance with expectations, Hill et al. Found that participants in the guilty expectation conditions formulated a significantly higher proportion of guilt presumptive question than participants in other condition, 28% and 16% respectively. The questions from the guilt presumptive condition were also an average rated as significantly higher in guilt presumptiveness. The mean scores were 3.62 compared to 3.33 in the innocence presumptive condition. Let's do the second supporting study for confirmation bias. It's a supporting study for confirmation bias by Lord et al. 1979. The aim of the study was to investigate the nature of confirmation bias and the degree that such a bias would lead to inconsistencies in assessing supporting and contradictory evidence. The procedure was the participants were 48 undergraduate psychology students, 24 of whom were in favor of the death penalty and 24 were against. The students were placed into groups and were given a series of cards presenting research on the death penalty, some supportive and some opposed. The students filled in a questionnaire designed to show any attitude change. Then they will be given the full details of the procedure and findings of each study. They had to judge how accurate each study was. In light of their reading, they answered the attitude change questionnaire a second time. Finally, they were presented with a further study with opposite results. Once again, they filled in the questionnaire. So the results were that the overall findings of the study showed significant polarization at the end of the study. Although all were exposed to the same stimulus material and detailed information, both the supporters and opposers of the death penalty ended more convinced than their initial opinion was backed by academic research. And although some participants were initially taking wary steps towards the opposite standpoint, they returned to their original point of view after they examined the evidence. So the conclusion is that the researchers concluded that system 1 confirmatory bias exists within academic circles, where different standards are applied to the evidence supporting their personal standpoint and the evidence contradicting it. So here we are done with system 1 and system 2 thinking, that is cognitive biases, and how cognitive biases actually has an effect on our thinking and our decision making, and we always do not think and decide on the things very rationally, very reasonable or very logically all the time. So because we are always being affected by these cognitive biases. I hope you understood the lesson, and if you have any queries, please feel free to write anything in the comment below. And if you want more explanation or more studies for the same, even then please write in the comments below. And do not forget to subscribe my channel Sonia Psychology Classes, so that you know that here we cover everything about IB psychology and also other boards like AS, A-level, CBSE and general psychology as well.